So, so good morning all to the another session of these online sessions on BA Part 2, fourth semester, English Literature, syllabus prescribed by Rashtrasant Tukaroji Maharaj Nagpur University, Nagpur, being conducted in collaboration by Rajkumar Keval Ramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya, Nagpur, Vasantrao Naik Government Institute of Arts and Social Sciences, Nagpur, Jawaharlal Nehru Arts, Commerce and Science College, Wadi, Nagpur, and Rajiv Gandhi Mahavidyalaya, Sadak Arjuni, Gondia. Sir, friends, on this, the next session is on the essay Child's Play by R.L. Stevenson, and the resource person for the session is Dr. Megha Ramteke, who is working as assistant professor. Dr. Megha Ramteke, who is working as assistant professor at PWS College of Arts and Commerce. She has completed her doctoral research from Nagpur University, and topic of her doctoral research was female sensibility in Elizabeth Gaskell's novels. She has a long teaching experience of around 15 years, and her topic of interest, area of interest are feminism, Victorian literature, post-colonial literature, and critical theories. Ma'am has completed one minor research project on Victorian women novelists. More than 20 research papers are published in several national and international journals. Recently, she received an appreciation and invitation to publish a research paper from an editor of USA journal named Global Journal of Human Sciences, and published a paper in the issue in the year 2021 of the year 2021. She is active otherwise as well. She's working on several academic bodies of the college and member of IQAC and NAC core committee. So on behalf of the organizing colleges and the students, I welcome ma'am to this session and hand over the mic to her for her presentation. Over to you, Madam Megha.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Kapil sir. Before I begin with my presentation, I would like to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to Dr. Kapil Singh sir and all the collaborative colleges for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this online lecture series, a venture that played a very vital role in the times of pandemics. So thank you very much. So I would like to begin with my presentation. So let's get going. I would like to share my screen. I hope it is visible.
Yeah, it's visible. But again, Megha, some echo is there.
Okay, I'll just open the door.
Yeah, please do that.
Hello, is it fine, sir, now?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind words. Good morning, one and all. Today I'm going to deal with a very important essay entitled Child's Play, written by Robert Louis Stevenson. Robert Louis Stevenson, 1850 to 1894, was a Scottish novelist. He was an essayist, a poet, and a travel writer. Born and brought up in Edinburgh, Robert Louis Stevenson was in poor health. He was suffering from bronchial trouble for much of his time. But despite his poor health, He prolifically kept writing and traveling widely. He is also renowned as a child's writer, and he is best known for the works such as A Child's Garden of Verses, Treasure Island, Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and Kidnapped. A Child's Garden of Verses is a volume of 64 poems, and this volume became so immensely popular in 19th century that it has been reprinted for many times in illustrated versions. And it was considered as one of the most influential children's works of 19th century. And this work was written from the point of view of a child. Treasure Island is an adventure story, adventure novel. And it was also one of the very popular works by Stevenson. And it tells a story about the buccaneers, the pirates, and the buried gold or the treasure. And this novel was serialized from 1881 to 1882 in a children's magazine named Young Folks. And it was published under the title Treasure Island or the Mutiny of the Hispaniola. And this novel had a very great influence, significant influence on the depiction of the character of pirates in popular culture. And with the elements like the deserted tropical island, the treasure map with the mark with the cross, and the seamen, single-leg seamen with a parrot perched on their shoulders, etc. Another work written by Stevenson is Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It is a Gothic novella, and it is a story of a character with split character. And it is a kind of story which became so immensely popular. It has such a great impact on the English language that it became a part of the English language of the vernacular phrase Jekyll and Hyde, referring to the people with unpredictably dual nature, outwardly good and sometimes shockingly evil. Another work is Kidnapped, which is also very popular. The best known, Stevenson is best known for these works. It is also an adventure story and it is written for the children. I would like to quote you one statement. G.K. Chesterton. G.K. Chesterton said of Stevenson that he seemed to pick the right word up on the point of his pen like a man playing spillikins. Spillikin is a kind of game which is played with a heap of the rods of wood, and the player is supposed to remove one rod without disturbing the others. Such was the subtlety in the writings, in the language of Stevenson, according to G.K. Chesterton. Now let's talk about the essay Child's Play, written in 1878 by Stevenson. As the name suggests, this essay is also about children. And this essay takes us back to our early childhood, where we used to get indulged in and keep frolicking in the imaginary world of make-believe play and fantasy. Through this essay, Stevenson tells us that how this make-believe plays and imaginary world of children define the childhood. And this story, this essay also gives a very important essential message to the parents that let these children dwell in their imaginary world for some more time, because soon they will become grown-ups and adults and they will have to face the harsh realities of the life. Stevenson brilliantly stresses the changes that occur in process of transition from childhood to adulthood. Stevenson begins this essay by stressing the changes that occur in the process of transition from childhood to adulthood. And talking about some of these changes, he says that after we become adult or the grown up, we are free from fear. I think every one of us might have gone through this experience in our childhood, that we had some kind of fears in our childhood. As Stevenson says, that terror is gone out of our lives. Moreover, we no longer see the devil in the bed curtains, nor lie awake to listen to the wind. We go to school no more. And if we have only exchanged one drudgery for another, we are set free forever from the daily fear of chastisement. Yes, I think every one of us might have experienced this kind of fear in our childhood. When you used to see some kind of shapes behind the bed curtains, it might be a tree, and we mistake it for a devil, and we used to get scared of it. Similarly, we used to get scared of the sound of the winds, and we used to lie awake to listen to the winds. Similarly, when we become adults, we don't no longer have to go to school. Yeah, and we are free from the fear of this chastisement, punishment, and discipline. So, therefore, Stevenson says that there is no reason to repent on, uh, regret over the loss of our childhood, and that we have become adults now. Similarly, the nature of pleasure and enjoyment after we become adult also changes. He says that now, after becoming an adult, our ability to read and understand Shakespeare can replace our ability to play at soldiers. In this way, our nature of pleasure and enjoyment also changes. Next, he talks about the fantasy, or we can say the mythology. Stevenson is of the view that when we become adult, when we grow up, these fantasies and mythologies no longer enchant our eatables. We are no longer in possession of the power to give a kind of enchantment over our eatables and make it more interesting and pleasing. As he says that to grown-up person, cold mutton is cold mutton all the world over. Not all the mythology ever invented by man will make it better or worse to him. The broad fact, the clement reality of mutton carries away before his such seductive pigments. But for the child, it is still possible to view an enchantment over eatables. If he has much read of a dish in a storybook, it will be heavily mana to him for a way. Yes. For an adult, a cold mutton is a cold mutton all over the world. And an adult cannot create a story, imaginary story around it to make it more fascinating, interesting, or delicious. Yeah, as our nature of pleasure has changed, an adult can choose a pickle to make it pleasing. But as far as the children are concerned, they can easily, create a kind of story, hunter story around this meat and make it more delicious. And it becomes so delicious that the best of the sauces cannot make it that delicious for the children. And if they have read about some dish in a storybook, it will be heavenly manna, or we can say a heavenly delight for days to come. Okay, so the adults cannot do this. So these are some of the changes that occur in the process of transition from childhood to adulthood. Taking us back to the first years of our childhood, Stevenson says that sensation does not play an essential role in this phase. Yes. Talking more about the childhood, the early phase of our childhood, Stevenson says that in this phase of our childhood, of our life, the sensations, our five senses, are not very sharp or developed, and they don't play the very essential roles in this phase. Especially the senses of eyesight, touch, and taste. They're not very sharp and developed. Okay, we don't look at the world, the realities of life as the adults can do. The children look through a kind of golden mist, at the things around them. Stevenson says that sensation does not count for so much in our first years as afterwards. Something of the swaddling numbness of infancy clings about us. We are always in possession of a kind of trance or a kind of numbness, that numbness of infancy, just like a baby is wrapped in warm clothes and he has that numbness, that soothing numbness surrounds and therefore they cannot see the reality as the world as the adults can see. And they use their senses, like the eyesight, to achieve their own bias. They don't look at the realities of the world as the others can do, but they look at these things through this golden mist, through their imaginary, we can say, through their imagination. And they achieve their own by-aims, or we can say the secret aims or private aims. Okay. And they conjure up their own imaginary stories around the things they see around them, because they are new to this world and they explore everything they come across in their life, and therefore they cannot see the things around them, the realities of the life, as the adults can. But yes, the senses of smell and hearing are perhaps more developed, according to Stevenson. I remember many saints, many voices, and a great deal of spring singing in the woods. But hearing is capable of vast improvement as a means of pleasure. And there is all the world between gaping wonderment at the jargon of birds and the emotion with which a man listens to articulate music. According to Stevenson, in our childhood, the senses of smell and hearing are perhaps more developed as compared to the other senses of eyesight, touch, and taste. And he says that uh, at that phase of our life, he says that I remember the sense, the voices, the jargon of the birds, the singing of the woods. Uh, that was more fascinating, appealing for a child. But as we grow up, we become adults, our hearing capability also improves or develops, but at the same time, our pleasure, our preferences also change. And we listen to a music, articulate or coherent music, and perhaps the jargon of the birds, the singing of the birds would become more distant or perhaps disturbing to the ears of the others, as as contrary to the children. And they might listen to this music with the emotion, which is, I think, beyond the scope of childhood. The child cannot understand that emotion that we understand after we become an adult. Theories about life out of our knowledge of history, gossip, and economical speculation. According to Stevenson, as we grow up, we understand the life better. Our knowledge of the life increases. And our mind is filled with new interests about the world around us. And our senses become more provocative. And through this understanding, through these experiences, we develop some theories about life out of this knowledge of history, gossip, and economical speculation. And we look at the world, we look at the things around us through these theories, in association with these theories. As Stevenson says, that at the same time, step by step, with this increase in definition and intensity of what we feel, which accompanies our growing age, another change takes place in the sphere of intellect, by which all things are transformed and seen through theories and associations as through colored windows. Our minds become prejudiced. We look at the things through colored windows. We are not able to see the things neutrally as the children can do. He says that children do not have this kind of theories or associations through which they look at the things around them, the theories about life. They are new to this world. They are at experimental stage with so ill-provided memory, and they explore the things with a kind of amazement and wonderment. And therefore, the little things around them, for example, a shop window, a soldier's uniform, sugar loaves, or a waterfall, car, they look at these things, these little things, with amazement and wonderment that the adults cannot do. Children are always in possession of some vague wonderment in a kind of trance. Yes. Stevenson says that the world of a child and the world of an adult are very different from each other. On one hand, the world of an adult is full of rationality. They look at the realities of the life as it is. But the children, they are always in possession of some kind always in a kind of trance, in a kind of stupor. So a kind of wonderment possesses them. As Stevenson says, that according to my contention, this is a plight to which children cannot rise. They are wheeled in preambulators and dragged about by nurses in a pleasing stupor. A vague, faint, abiding wonderment possesses him. Just look at a child, who is sitting in a walker or preambulators and dragged about by the nurses. They are always in a kind of stupor. They are always in the kind of trance. A kind of vague wonderment or amazement possesses them. And they look at the things around them with that wonderment. Yes. So they cannot experience the world as adults can do. They can see the realities, but the children look at the world or the things around them through their imagination. Okay. The world of children is completely different from that of the elders. Yes, as I have said earlier, the world of children is completely different from the world of elders. And these children invariably show some sympathy and they understand the doings of the children, other children. For example, they can find some sense in the making of the mud pie. But as far as the doings of the elders are concerned, Stevenson says, but the doings of their elders, unless where they are speakingly picturesque or recommend themselves by the quality of being easily imitable, they let them go over their heads, as we say, without the least regard. If it were not for this perpetual imitation, we should be tempted to fancy they despised us outright, or only considered us in the light of creatures brutally strong and brutally silly, among whom they condescended to dwell in obedience like a philosopher at a barbarous court. Yes, he says that, but the doings of their elders, unless they are speakingly picturesque or recommend themselves by the quality of being easily imitable, they let them go over their heads without the least regard. If the doings of the elders are not very picturesque, appealing, or good enough to be imitable or easily imitable, they will consider it as worthless. Okay, without any value, they will not pay any attention to this, the doings of their elders. Okay, and had it not been for this perpetual imitation of the children, the world of the elders would be worthless, would be without any value, and they would have despised us outright. Okay, and they consider us, the world of the elders, in the light of creatures brutally strong and brutally silly, and they are like the philosophers at the barbarous school. So in this way, the world of children and the world of elders are very different. And unless and until the doings of these elders are easily imitable or picturesque or appealing enough to be imitated, they are worthless for children. Unlike their elders, the children can make use of anything they have around them to conjure up their imaginary play. As we have seen that the children always dwell in their imaginary world of the make-believe play and imagination, fantasy, and then imaginative story. And they always indulge in performing these imaginary stories and the imaginative roles, uh, just like an actor performs in a theater. And to perform this role, they need some stage properties, some props, the lay figures, and they can make use of anything around them, any object around them they find they can use as, the stage property for playing that particular role in the theater, just like an actor. So, as Stevenson says that he works all with lay figures and stage properties. When his story comes to the fighting, he must rise, get something by the way of a sword, and have a set to with a piece of furniture until he is out of breath. When he comes to ride with the king's pardon, he must bestride a chair, which he will so hurry and belabor, and on which he will so furiously demean himself that a messenger will arrive, if not bloody with spurring, at least fiery red with haste. If his romance involves an accident upon a cliff, he must clamber in person above the chest of drawers. and fall bodily upon the carpet before his imagination is satisfied. Yes, here Stevenson has given some examples that how they can make use of things around them as stage properties. For example, if there is a kind of fighting in their story, in their performance, they can use anything. For example, a stake or a broom. They can use it as a sword and just begin fighting, fighting with someone, and even they don't need anyone to fight with. They just can imagine or pretend to be fighting with a piece of furniture, and they do it so energetically, so passionately until they are out of breath. When it comes to ride with king's permission, pardon, he must bestride a chair. Now they can use a chair as a horse. If they want to ride a horse, they don't need a real horse. A chair is enough for them. They can use a chair. They can sit on the chair astride and to pretend to be riding a horse. So this is the kind of imagination, makeshifts or make believe play children conjure up very easily. Through their imagination. If this romance involves an accident upon a cliff, he must clamber in person about the chest of drawers and fall bodily upon the carpet before his imagination is satisfied. Um, just for another example of this make-believe play, that if the child is pretending to be climbing a kind of cliff, he can use a chest of drawers, as a cliff to climb up and fall bodily upon the carpet. And in this way, they satisfy their imagination. And another important thing about their make-believe plays, Stevenson says that nothing can stagger a child's faith. He accepts the clumsiest substitutes and can swallow the most staring incongruities. Yes, the children they believe in their make-believe play, and nobody can stagger their faith in their play. Okay, and they can accept any clumsiest substitutes. Okay, and they can do with any incongruous congruities of their the things they are or the objects they are using. And sometimes this incongruous use of these objects they can induce laughter in the elders, but the same people, the same children, when they perform in the real theater of life, they can make us weep and cry like anything, because they rehearse the same emotions, the same vocation, the same attitudes of the elders in their play. The reasons why children love Robinson Crusoe. Now here, Stevenson talks about a very important, very popular novel, Robinson Crusoe, written by Daniel Defoe. And he was for some reasons that why this novel, Robinson Crusoe, is so popular with the youth. So he says that one out of a dozen reasons why Robinson Crusoe should be so popular with youth is that it hits their level in this matter to a nicety. Crusoe was always at makeshift and had in so many words to play at a great variety of professions. And then the book is all about tools. And there is nothing that delights a child so much. Hammers and saws belong to a province of life that positively calls for imitation. So why do children like Robinson Crusoe so much? So according to Stevenson, the life of Robinson Crusoe is quite similar to that of children. A castaway who is survived somehow in a shipwreck and spends 28 years on a deserted tropical island, and how he learns and play at a great variety of professions, how he learns to grow rice and barley, how he learns to make the pottery and different tools. All these things, all these tools are so fascinating to children. And there is a lot, a very positive call in this novel for imitation for the children. So therefore, this is the reason that Robinson Crusoe has become so popular with the youth. Yes. Children are the artists who create their mimetic reproduction, abstracting their raw material from the likes of their elders. Children are the artists. Yes, they create their own, imaginary world, imaginary make-believe play or imaginative story. Uh, and we can call it a mimetic reproduction because they imitate the doings of their elders. And while doing so, they abstract this raw material from the lives of their elders. And while doing so, their art or their performance is more important from the harsh realities or the truths of life. And sometimes they are so engrossed in the performance of this kind of the imaginary play that even the meal can become a kind of interruption for them, and the simple process like eating and drinking can become interesting and appealing with the help of fancy and the imagination. Art for art is their motto, and the doings of grown folks are only interesting as the raw material for play. So art for art is their only motto. Okay, they have nothing to do with the realities of the world and the life. Yes, and they can't parody the worst situation in life. As Stevenson has here mentioned two important French writers, Théophile Gautier and Flaubert. He says that not Théophile Gautier, not Flaubert can look more callously upon life or rate the reproduction more highly over the reality. They will parody an execution, a deathbed, or the funeral with all the cheerfulness in the world. So he says that even these French writers cannot rate their production, their art more highly over the reality. But the children can parody even the worst situations like the execution, a deathbed, or the funeral with all the cheerfulness in the world, because these realities, these worst situations are they do not bother about them. They are just concerned about their art, their performance, their make believe, and therefore they perform them with all the cheerfulness in the world. So this is the difference between between an adult and a child. The unconscious artistic creation of play by children can never find its match in the conscious art of adults, which is basically to do with philosophical interests beyond the scope of childhood. An adult can never give vent to his passion and dreams as children can do. Yes. Uh, there is a difference, another difference between the world of children and the world of an adult. He says that there is no parallel in the conscious art of the adults. The adults cannot give vent to their passions, their dreams, as the children can do. Because their plays, their conscious art is basically to do with the philosophical interests. And these philosophical interests are beyond the scope of childhood. Okay, so adults cannot create a kind of play of make believe as the children can. And this because the adults deal with the realities of life, and the children they they create this kind of play of make believe with their imagination using all the objects around them as a strange property. They always come in at cross, and they always go in different directions. Uh, it is when we make castle in air and personate the leading characters in our own romances that we return to the spirit of our first years. Stevenson says that the adults, they they can create this kind of play only when uh, they can make castle in the air or personate the leading character in our own romances. Only then it is possible for them to return to the spirit of our first years. Children prefer imaginary details over the substantial realities of life. Yes. According to Stevenson, children prefer shadow than substance. They give more importance to the imaginary details than the substantial realities of life. In the child's world of dim sensation, play is all in all. Make believe is the gist of his whole life, and he cannot so much as take a walk except in character. And they are so indulged, greatly indulged in this kind of make believe that they even I told you that even a meal can become an interruption for them. and they can make their meal interesting and pleasing and enchanting with the help of their fancy and imagination. For example, he remembers that Stevenson with his cousin, when they used to have their porridge, they used to enliven it with their fancy and imagination by transforming the porridge into a snow-clad country by adding sugar to it, or a country suffering from gradual inundation by adding milk to it. So they conjure up all this kind of stories, imaginative stories like island or the boat in the milk or the porridge, and they make it more interesting and delicious. Here, the meal remains of secondary importance, okay, until and unless it is seasoned with dreams. Similarly, the imaginary story built around the cow's feet jelly is amusingly delineated by Stevenson, in which the jelly is imagined as a gold rock with some hollow inside, and the author, as a child, would lay open the secret dwelling place with a spoon and might find the treasure of 40 thieves and Arabian Nights inside. How interesting. Now, Stevenson talks about this cow's feet jelly and how he, creates this kind of imaginative stories around this cow's feed jelly, where he considers that this jelly as a gold rock and hollow inside, and how he lays open that secret dwelling place of the 40 thieves with the help of his sword. So these kind of stories, imaginative stories and fancies, they conjure up against around these meals and dishes, and they make them more delicious and interesting and fascinating. Stevenson appears to be a little apprehensive about the upbringing of children who dwell in the world apparently different from the world of their parents. So far, Stevenson has talked about these two different worlds, the world of children and the world of parents. The children who are completely indulged in their imaginative world, uh, who use anything around them, all the objects, anything, uh, uh, to use as their stage properties. As I told you, that they use a chair as a horse. And while doing this, they have such a deep faith in their performance that nobody can break this faith. And if somebody, if a parent, for example, they are using the chair as a horse, or they are pretending to be besieging that chair as a castle, and they are trying to cut it down to the ground as a dragon. And in between, some other comes, some morning visitor comes, and the parents take that chair away, and for the accommodation of that visitor, the children remain unabashed. They are not embarrassed, and they immediately find another substitute to pretend to be fighting for another hour with a stationary pole cutter in the garden. So this kind of the world they live in. While the world of the parents is very different. They always go in two different directions. They are always at cross at 100 places. So in such situations, where the world of the parents is full of rationalities, while the children, as Stevenson says, that surely they dwell in a mythological epoch and are not the contemporaries of their parents, and they always keep moving in the Olympus, the abode of the god, devoid of rationality, and who passes three-fourths of his time in a dream and the rest in open self-deception. We expect him to be as nice upon a matter of fact as a scientific expert bearing evidence. So in such case, Stevenson gets little apprehensive about the bringing of children, and he questions that whether the parents would ever understand their children. And he comes up with a very important message for the parents. And he says that the author Stevenson urges the parents to let their children linger in their imaginary world of play for a little while longer. For who knows what a rough and warfaring existence lies before them in the future. So it would be easy to leave, I would like to quote here, it would be easy to leave them in their native cloud land where they figure so prettily, pretty like flowers and innocent like dogs. They will come out of their gardens soon enough and have to go into offices and the witness box. Spare them at a while, O conscious parent. Let them doze among their playthings, yet a little. For who knows what a rough, warfaring existence lies before them in the future. So here Stevenson is making an appeal to the parents that please let your children live for a little while more in their world of imagination, their world of make-believe play, because soon they are going to become adults and grown-ups, and they will have to face all the harsh realities of the life, and therefore we should not disrupt their happiness, their joy, and the soothing numbness of infancy that clings to them, and we should let them enjoy that for some more time. So this is the conclusion. This is the message Stevenson gives at the end of the essay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Megha.
It was not very long.
As,
Only
yeah.
45 minutes.
Yeah, 10, fine. That is fine. You have covered everything, every point, every point from the prescribed essay has been covered. Ma'am started with the background uh, to the writer, and after mentioning a few other works of R.L. Stevenson, she went on with the prescribed essay, summarized the essay, covered every point, and I think that whatever is important from the examination point of view has been covered. So, on behalf of the participating collaborating colleges and my other two counterparts who are present here, Dr. Archana Deshmukh and Dr. Leena Fate. I thank Dr. Megha Ramteke for sparing this morning hours and making a presentation in this session. And I declare that the session for the day is over. Thank you, Dr. Megha.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.